Perfect plans. Daniel Martinez ran his fingers along the edge of the invitation sample, admiring the elegant gold foil that caught the afternoon light streaming through their apartment windows. 3 weeks until he would marry Sophia Chen, the woman who had turned his methodically planned life into something wonderfully unpredictable. "What do you think?" Sophia asked, leaning against his shoulder. Her dark hair fell in waves across his arm as she pointed to the invitation. "The calligrapher did an amazing job with our names." "It's perfect," Daniel said, kissing her temple. "Just like everything else you've planned." As an architectural engineer, Daniel appreciated precise details and structural integrity. But Sophia, with her background in creative writing and current job as a literary agent, brought color and spontaneity to his world. They had met 2 years ago at a mutual friend's gallery opening. He was there supporting a college roommate. She was reviewing the exhibition for a local arts magazine. "Almost perfect," Sophia corrected with a playful smile. "We still need to finalize the seating arrangements, confirm with the caterer about Uncle Leo's shellfish allergy, and make sure my cousin doesn't bring that horrible boyfriend of hers." Daniel laughed, pulling her closer. "I trust your judgment completely." Their apartment was littered with wedding planning evidence, fabric swatches, venue photos, and spreadsheets tracking every detail from flower arrangements to the playlist for their first dance. The wedding would be intimate, only 80 guests, but Sophia approached it with the dedication of someone orchestrating a royal ceremony. "I never thought I'd be this person," Sophia admitted later that evening as they sat on their balcony, sharing a bottle of wine. The city lights twinkled below them like fallen stars. "The one who obsesses over centerpieces and wedding favors." "You're not obsessing," Daniel said, refilling her glass. "You're creating something beautiful." Sophia's expression softened. "After what happened with my parents' marriage, I never thought I'd want this. But you changed everything." Daniel knew the story well. How Sophia's father had left her mother for another woman when Sophia was 16, fracturing her belief in lasting love. It had taken months for her to trust Daniel completely, to believe his promises weren't just words that would evaporate when tested. "I'm not going anywhere," he assured her, the same words he'd repeated countless times throughout their relationship. "Ever." She nestled against him, her body warm against his in the cool evening air. "I know. That's why I can't wait to be your wife." The next morning, Daniel woke early to prepare Sophia's favorite breakfast, blueberry pancakes with fresh whipped cream. She emerged from their bedroom just as he was plating the food, her hair tousled from sleep and wearing one of his old t-shirts. "You're too good to me," she murmured, wrapping her arms around his waist and pressing her cheek against his back. "Just practicing for married life," he replied, turning to kiss her properly. After breakfast, they spread the final guest list across their dining table. Daniel's family would be coming from Chicago, Sophia's from San Francisco. Friends from college, colleagues, and neighbors they'd grown close to over the years. Each name represented a thread in the tapestry of their lives. "I think we're done," Sophia said triumphantly, checking off the last name. "Final count is 78. Daniel looked at the list, feeling a swell of excitement. In 3 weeks, all these people would gather to witness their commitment to each other. He imagined Sophia walking down the aisle toward him, radiant in the dress she'd kept hidden in her best friend May's closet. He pictured their first dance, their honeymoon in Portugal, and all the years stretching ahead of them. "I love you," he said simply, reaching for her hand across the table. Sophia intertwined her fingers with his. "I love you too, more than I ever thought possible." That night, as Sophia slept beside him, Daniel marveled at their journey. Every relationship had its challenges, but theirs had always felt different, built on honesty, understanding, and unwavering trust. Whatever obstacles came their way, they would face them together, as they always had. Little did he know that their foundation was about to be tested in ways he never anticipated. A name from the past. Daniel wasn't the type to micromanage, but with Sophia working late at the publishing house all week, he'd offered to handle the RSVP confirmations. He sat at their dining table, laptop open and a spreadsheet before him, methodically checking off names as he sorted through the responses. 65 confirmed, he muttered to himself, taking a sip of his coffee. The process was oddly satisfying, each checkmark bringing them closer to their perfect day. Then he saw it, a name that wasn't on their original list. Nestled between Sophia's college roommate and her cousin was a handwritten addition, Alexander Reed. Daniel frowned, the name tugging at some distant memory. He scrolled through their master list again, confirming his suspicion. This person hadn't been included in their final count. More curious than concerned, he pulled up the digital version of their invitation list. No Alexander Reed. He reached for his phone, intending to text Sophia, when something stopped him. The handwriting adding the name wasn't Sophia's usual flowing script, but a tighter, more deliberate attempt to mimic her style. And beside the name was a small note, personal invite from S, needs follow-up. Daniel set his phone down. The apartment suddenly felt too quiet, the silence heavy with unanswered questions. Alexander Reed. The name circled in his mind until recognition dawned. Sophia had mentioned him once during a late-night conversation about past relationships. Alex, her college boyfriend. The one she'd lived with for nearly 2 years before they'd split. It ended badly, she'd told Daniel, her voice soft in the darkness of their bedroom. He wasn't ready for what I wanted, and I couldn't wait around. We haven't spoken since. That had been over a year ago, and she'd never mentioned him again. Daniel had respected her privacy, never pressing for details about a relationship that had clearly left scars. He closed the laptop slowly. This wasn't just about an unexpected guest. It was about why Sophia would invite her ex-boyfriend to their wedding without telling him, and why she would try to hide it among dozens of other names. That night, when Sophia returned home with takeout and apologies for working late again, Daniel nearly brought it up. But something in her tired smile made him hesitate. Instead, he helped her unpack the food, listened to her stories about the manuscript she was editing, and kept his discovery to himself. "Everything okay with the RSVPs?" she asked as they cleared the dishes. "Fine," he replied, studying her face for any sign of discomfort. "Almost done with them." Sophia kissed him, her lips tasting of the spicy curry they'd shared. "You're the best. I couldn't do all this without you." That night, as Sophia slept beside him, Daniel stared at the ceiling, the questions multiplying in his mind. Was she still in contact with Alexander? Why would she invite him to their wedding? And why keep it secret? The next morning, Daniel called in sick to work for the first time in 3 years. After Sophia left, kissing him goodbye with wishes for him to feel better soon, he sat at his computer and did something he'd never imagined doing. He searched for Alexander Reed. It didn't take long to find him. A LinkedIn profile showed he'd moved back to the city 6 months ago after several years abroad. His Instagram, public and frequently updated, revealed a handsome man with confident eyes and an easy smile. Daniel scrolled through, his stomach tightening with each photo until he saw one that made his blood run cold. A coffee shop, 8 weeks ago. Alexander at a table, the caption reading, "Unexpected reunions are the best kind." The location tagged was just 3 blocks from Sophia's office. Daniel closed the browser, feeling like an intruder in his own life. He had never been jealous or suspicious. Trust had always come easily to him. But now doubt crept in like a shadow, darkening everything he thought he knew. His phone buzzed with a text from Sophia. "Hope you're feeling better. Love you." He stared at her message, wondering what else those fingers had typed to Alexander Reed. Silent investigation. The next 2 days became a quiet investigation. Daniel moved through their apartment with new awareness, noticing details he'd overlooked before. A business card tucked in Sophia's desk drawer from the literary agency where Alexander now worked as a rights manager. A notification on her laptop from an email address he didn't recognize, disappearing as she quickly closed it when he entered the room. Wedding jitters? May asked when he met her for coffee, ostensibly to discuss the rehearsal dinner. Sophia's best friend had always been perceptive. "Not exactly," Daniel admitted, turning his cup in slow circles. "Can I ask you something about Sophia's past?" May's expression shifted subtly. "What kind of something?" "Alexander Reed." The name hung between them. May took a deliberate sip of her latte before responding. What about him? He's on our wedding guest list. Sophia added him without telling me. May's surprise seemed genuine. Are you sure? That doesn't sound like something she would do. I'm sure, Daniel said, pulling out his phone to show her the handwritten edition. Did she ever talk to you about him? After they broke up? May hesitated, loyalty to her friend visibly battling with concern for Daniel. It wasn't a simple breakup, she finally said. They were engaged. The revelation hit Daniel like a physical blow. Engaged. Sophia had never mentioned an engagement, not when they'd discussed past relationships, not when he proposed, not ever. What happened? He managed to ask. He got a job offer in London, asked her to go with him. She said yes initially, but then backed out 2 weeks before they were supposed to leave. Said she couldn't abandon her career, her family. May watched Daniel carefully. It was messy. She returned the ring by mail. Daniel absorbed this information, trying to reconcile it with the woman he knew. And now he's back. Apparently, May said. But Daniel, Sophia loves you. I've never seen her happier. He nodded, wanting to believe her. Then why the secrecy? May reached across the table, touching his hand lightly. Sometimes the past is complicated. Talk to her. But instead of confronting Sophia that evening, Daniel dug deeper. He checked their shared credit card statement, finding a charge from an upscale restaurant downtown from 3 weeks ago, a day Sophia had said she was working late. The restaurant's Instagram page showed a post from that night, and in the background of one photo, barely visible but unmistakable, Sophia and Alexander at a corner table. The next morning, he followed her to work. The behavior felt foreign to him, like he was playing a role in someone else's story. He watched from across the street as she entered her office building, then waited. At lunch, instead of heading to her usual salad place with colleagues, she walked 3 blocks to a small park where Alexander was waiting on a bench. Daniel observed from behind a newspaper as they spoke, their body language telling a story he couldn't fully interpret. There was familiarity there, but also tension. At one point, Alexander reached for her hand, but Sophia pulled away. When they parted, there was no embrace, no kiss, just a lingering look that contained something Daniel couldn't decipher. That afternoon, he found the invitation. Hidden in Sophia's desk beneath manuscript drafts was an envelope addressed to Alexander Reed. The invitation inside was identical to others they'd sent, except for a handwritten note at the bottom. Some circles need proper closing before new ones can begin. Your presence would mean more than you know. S. Daniel replaced everything exactly as he'd found it, then sat on the edge of their bed, the weight of discovery heavy on his shoulders. The woman he thought he knew completely had kept an entire history hidden from him and was now inviting that history to witness their marriage. As he heard Sophia's key in the lock, Daniel made his decision. The time for silent investigation was over. Whatever truth lay beneath the surface, he needed to face it. They needed to face it, before they spoke vows of honesty and fidelity that would bind them for life. Confrontation and confessions. The sound of Sophia's keys jingling in the door gave Daniel a moment to compose himself. He'd arranged the evidence carefully on the coffee table, the guest list with Alexander's added name, the restaurant receipt, a printout of the Instagram photo, and finally, the invitation with her handwritten note. When she walked in, her smile faded instantly upon seeing his expression and the items before him. "Daniel, what's all this?" "I was hoping you could tell me," he said, his voice surprisingly steady despite the storm inside him. "Who is Alexander Reed to you now, Sophia?" She froze, her bag slipping from her shoulder to the floor with a soft thud. Her eyes darted from the evidence to his face, then back again. "You've been following me," she whispered, a mixture of shock and hurt in her voice. "I've been trying to understand why my fiancé would invite her ex to our wedding without telling me. Why she would meet him secretly. Why she would write him notes about closing circles." Daniel gestured to the items on the table. "I've never gone through your things before, Sophia. I've never followed you, but I've also never felt like there was something you weren't telling me." Sophia sank into the armchair across from him, her face pale. "I was going to tell you." "When? After the wedding? During our vows?" Daniel felt his composure slipping. You were engaged to him, Sophia. You lived together for 2 years, and you never once mentioned any of that to me. Because it hurt too much, she said, tears welling in her eyes. Because I was ashamed. Ashamed of what? Loving someone before me? That's not something to hide. Ashamed of how afraid I was, she said, her voice breaking. Of how I ran away when things got real. She took a deep breath, wiping tears from her cheeks. Alex and I were engaged. He got the job offer in London, his dream job. I said I'd go, but as the date got closer, I panicked. I told myself it was about my career, my family. But it wasn't. It was about my fear of fully committing my life to someone else's path. Daniel listened, trying to keep his heart from hardening against her explanation. I broke his heart, Sophia continued. I returned the ring by mail because I was too cowardly to face him. He left for London, and I told myself it was the right decision. That we weren't meant to be. And now? Daniel asked, dreading her answer. 3 months ago, he contacted me. He's back in the city working at Hayes Literary. We had coffee just once to catch up. He apologized for pressuring me about London, and I apologized for how I ended things. Sophia leaned forward, her eyes pleading with him to understand. It was closure, Daniel. Something I never had. Closure doesn't usually involve secret lunches in the park, Daniel said, the image of them on that bench still fresh in his mind. Or dinner at places where your fiancé won't see you. The restaurant was his suggestion. I should have said no, but I thought it would be the last time we'd meet, that we could finally put the past to rest. Sophia got up and moved to sit beside him on the couch. He asked about you, about our wedding, and something in me thought, if he could see us together, see how happy you make me, then maybe the guilt I've carried would finally disappear. So you invited him to our wedding without telling me, Daniel said flatly. It was impulsive and wrong, she admitted. I added his name after we finalized the list. Then immediately regretted it, but didn't know how to tell you without explaining everything. You could have just told me the truth from the beginning, Sophia. About your engagement, about him contacting you. I would have understood. Would you? She challenged gently. When I told you about my parents' divorce, about my father's betrayal, you looked at me with such admiration for how I'd moved past it. But I hadn't, not really. I was still the scared girl who ran away when things got too real. I didn't want you to see that part of me. Daniel stood up, needing distance to process her words. The part that might run away from me too? Sophia's silence was answer enough. Do you still have feelings for him? Daniel asked, the question that had been haunting him for days. No, she said firmly. What I feel is regret for how I handled things. With him then, and with you now. She reached for his hand. I love you, Daniel. I want to marry you. Only you. Then why is his invitation still in your desk? Because I haven't decided whether to send it, she admitted. Part of me wanted that closure. Another part knew it wasn't fair to you. I've been torn. Daniel looked at the woman he'd planned to marry in just 2 weeks. Familiar yet suddenly mysterious. I need time to think, he said finally. About whether I can trust what we're building if there are parts of yourself you're hiding from me. Sophia nodded, tears streaming freely now. I understand. That night, Daniel slept at his brother's apartment, the distance between them measuring more than just city blocks. A new beginning. 3 days passed without contact. Daniel threw himself into work, designing structural solutions while his own foundation felt compromised. Sophia's revelation had shaken everything he thought he knew about their relationship. Not because she'd had a serious past, everyone did, but because she'd hidden it, treating him as someone who couldn't handle her complete truth. On the 4th day, a small package arrived at his office. Inside was a journal, its leather cover soft with age. A note from Sophia lay on top, Daniel. Words have always come easier to me on paper than in conversation. This is my journal from the year after Alex left. I've never shown it to anyone. But if you're willing to understand me, all of me, then start here. I'll be at Riverside Park at sunset, on the bench where you first told me you loved me. Whether you come or not, know that you taught me what real love looks like. Not a fairy tale, but a choice made every day to see someone fully and love them anyway. Yours. If you'll still have me, Sophia, Daniel spent his lunch hour reading her journal entries. The pages chronicled a young woman grappling with regret, fear, and slowly rebuilding herself. The final entry, dated a week before they met, read, "I think I'm finally ready to be brave enough for love. Not the kind that demands perfection, but the kind that grows from honesty, even when honesty hurts." At sunset, Daniel found her on the park bench overlooking the river. The golden light caught in her hair as she turned to see him, uncertainty in her eyes. "You came," she said softly. "I read your journal," he replied, sitting beside her. The familiar scent of her perfume reminded him of countless evenings like this one, talking until the stars appeared. "Why didn't you tell me any of this before?" "Because I was afraid you'd see me differently," Sophia admitted. "The person who ran away when things got difficult. The person who might do it again. And now? Now I realize that hiding parts of myself is its own kind of running away." She turned to face him fully. "I've disinvited Alex. Not because he's a threat to us, but because our wedding shouldn't be about closing old chapters. It should be about starting ours." Daniel was quiet for a moment, watching a boat drift down the river. "When I proposed, I thought I knew everything about you. Finding out I didn't, it scared me." "I know," she whispered, "and I'm sorry. But then I realized," he continued, "that maybe knowing someone completely isn't about having all the information up front. Maybe it's about choosing to keep discovering them, layer by layer, year after year." He reached for her hand, feeling the familiar warmth of her fingers as they intertwined with his. "I don't need to know every detail of your past, Sophia. But I do need to know you won't hide yourself from me in our future. Never again," she promised. "I want to be known by you, completely." 2 weeks later, Daniel stood at the altar, watching as Sophia walked toward him. Her dress caught the light filtering through stained glass, creating a halo around her. In the audience, 76 faces smiled back, family, friends, colleagues. Alexander Reed was not among them. In his pocket, Daniel carried a note Sophia had slipped under his door that morning. "Today, I choose you with my whole heart. Not because you're perfect, not because I'm perfect, but because we're perfectly honest with each other. That's the foundation I want for our life together. I promise to never run away from you, from us, or from myself. All my love, Sophia," as she reached him. Her eyes shining with tears and certainty, Daniel took her hands in his. Whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together. Two people committed not to a flawless love, but to one built on truth, forgiveness, and the courage to be fully known. "Ready?" he whispered. Sophia smiled. All doubt vanished from her eyes. More than ever. And as they exchanged their vows before everyone who mattered in their lives, Daniel understood that love wasn't about perfect plans or unblemished histories. It was about choosing someone every day, even when, especially when, you've seen their scars and they've seen yours. It was a new beginning, built on a stronger foundation than either of them had imagined possible.